They were called moving shipping containers, soda cans with guns, and tractors in armor. Yet these machines won wars, saved lives, and redefined what a tank can be. Welcome to the full story of U.S. armor, World War I and the earliest attempts. The CLB-75 was one of the earliest attempts in the United States to design a tank during World War I in 1917. Its most unusual feature was the rounded dome-shaped armored hull, which engineers hoped would help deflect enemy bullets and shrapnel. However, the design proved impractical. The tank was extremely slow and difficult to operate on rough terrain. Because of these limitations, the project was quickly abandoned in favor of more practical tank designs. Holt gas-electric tank. It all started in 1917 with the Holt gas-electric tank. America's very first attempt was basically a tractor with an electric drive system. 25 tons, crawling at just 10 kilometers per hour, it looked more like a moving power plant than a fighting machine. They even tried mounting a 75mm howitzer. But it was too heavy for the mud of World War I trenches. Still, it proved the concept. The US could build tanks. And that single prototype lit the fuse for everything that followed. Skeleton tank. Next came the bizarre skeleton tank of 1918. Weighing just 9 tons and built mostly from iron pipes, it was 80% air. Designers hoped the open frame would let it cross huge trenches without getting stuck. It looked ridiculous, like a giant erector set on tracks. The war ended before it could prove itself in combat, but it showed how creative American engineers could get when they needed to solve a problem. Ford 3-ton M1918. Then Ford gave us the 3-ton M1918, the Model T of tanks. Just 3 tons, 2 Ford car engines, armed only with a .30 machine gun. It was cheap, simple, and meant to be built by the thousands to swarm the enemy. 15 were made, but the war ended before mass production. Ford literally tried to turn the entire auto industry into a tank factory overnight. M1917 light tank. The first real success was the M1917 light tank, America's licensed copy of the French Renault FT, 7.25 tons, 37mm gun. It became the backbone of early US armor and stayed in service for over a decade. Simple, reliable, and it finally gave American crews something that actually worked in battle. Mark 8 Liberty. By 1920 came the Mark 8 Liberty, a 39-ton British-American monster that could span wide trenches. But its size made logistics a nightmare. It was the last of the World War I giants, and the perfect bridge to the interwar experiments. Interwar period. Medium tank M1921. These early machines taught one clear lesson: size and simplicity matter. Now designers started thinking smarter. The medium tank M1921 brought the first fully rotating turret, a revolution that every future tank would copy. And just to push the limits, they even tested a crazy cable suspension system. It was supposed to smooth the ride, but mostly gave mechanics headaches. Still, it showed America was experimenting hard. T2 medium tank. The T2 medium tank of 1930 was America's first serious attempt at a true medium tank, featuring a 37mm gun and surprisingly thick armor for its 15-ton weight limit. It performed well in trials thanks to a powerful Liberty aircraft engine, but the project was quietly cancelled during the Great Depression when Walter Christie's revolutionary high-speed designs stole the Army's attention. T1 Christie Light Tank Series. Walter Christie's designs changed everything. The T1 Christie, and especially the legendary Christie M1931, could literally fly over rough ground at speeds over 70 km per hour thanks to revolutionary suspension. The military called it too weird at first, but the Soviets loved the idea so much they copied it straight into their BT tanks. America had invented the future of mobility. M2 light tank. The M2 light tank took that idea further. Early versions looked like a battleship on tracks with 4 separate machine gun turrets. Later it settled on a single 37mm gun, and became the direct ancestor of the famous Stuart. It taught the Army that speed and reliability were more important than raw firepower. Marmon Harrington CTLS. Then came the tiny Marmon Harrington CTLS, exported everywhere because it was cheap and easy to maintain. Interestingly, some of them ended up fighting for the Dutch East Indies and were even captured and used by the Japanese. World War II. M3 Stuart and M5 Stuart. World War II exploded the scale. The M3 Stuart, British crews affectionately called it honey, because it was so sweet and reliable in the desert. 58 kilometers per hour, perfect scout. The M5 version added twin Cadillac engines and became even faster and more dependable. Together they became legends of reconnaissance. M3 Lee. Then the awkward M3 Lee with its hull-mounted 75mm gun. It looked funny like a tall church on tracks, but it brought desperately needed firepower when the Allies needed it most in North Africa. And then, the M4 Sherman. 30 tons, 75mm gun, later upgraded to 76mm, produced in staggering numbers, over 50,000. Not the heaviest, not the most powerful, but reliable, easy to repair, and it won the war through sheer quantity and logistics. American crews joked it was the best tank in the world, because we had so many of them. T-14 Heavy Tank. The T-14 Heavy Tank was a rare joint American-British project. A massive 47-ton assault tank with a 75mm gun, designed to smash through heavy fortifications. Only 2 prototypes were ever built. It looked promising on paper, but the British eventually lost interest and the project quietly died. Yet it showed America was already thinking about super heavy armor, even while the Sherman was still rolling off the lines. M10 Wolverine. Meet the M10 Wolverine, America's most produced tank destroyer of the war. Built on a Sherman chassis with a powerful 3-inch gun and an open turret. According to US doctrine, tanks were not supposed to fight other tanks. That job belonged to dedicated tank destroyers like this one. Over 6,700 were made, and they became the backbone of American anti-tank units in Europe. M6 Heavy Tank. Heavy experiments followed. The 57-ton M6 that was too big for most bridges. Interestingly, it carried 3 different guns at once. A 75mm, a 37mm, and even anti-aircraft machine guns. But its sheer size made it completely impractical. M18 Hellcat. The M18 Hellcat was pure speed demon. With a 76mm gun and a top speed over 90 km per hour, it was the fastest armored vehicle of the entire war. Nicknamed Hellcat, it could dash in, fire, and disappear before the enemy could react. Crews loved its agility, even though its made it feel like a sports car with a cannon. The T-20 and T-23 were secret experimental replacements for the Sherman. They tested new transmissions, lower silhouettes, and better suspension. Many of their best ideas, especially the improved turret and gun mount, went straight into the M26 Pershing. They never reached the battlefield, but they quietly shaped the next generation of American tanks. M22 Locust. The glider carried M22 Locust with paper-thin armor was meant to support paratroopers. British forces actually used it once during the Normandy landings, but its light protection made it extremely vulnerable once it hit the ground. M24 Chaffee. Then came the superb M24 Chaffee, a huge leap forward with a 75mm gun and silky smooth suspension. It was fast, reliable, had a stabilized gun for shooting on the move, and remained in service all the way into the Korean War and beyond. M36 Jackson. The M36 Jackson was the big upgrade America needed. Taking the M10 chassis and slapping on a massive 90mm gun, it could finally take on German Tigers and Panthers head-on. Crews called it the Slugger. It arrived just in time for the Battle of the Bulge and quickly earned a fearsome reputation as the best American tank destroyer of World War II. T-28 and T-95 Super Heavy Tank. 95 tons, a 105mm gun and not 2, but 4 sets of tracks to support its monstrous weight. It was designed as a mobile fortress to blast through the Siegfried Line. Only 2 prototypes were completed after the war ended. It never saw combat, but it remains one of the heaviest vehicles America ever tried to build. M26 Pershing. The M26 Pershing finally arrived in 1945, 42 tons with a 90mm gun that could actually punch through a Tiger's frontal armor. It came very late to World War II, but in Korea it destroyed the first T-34s the Americans faced and proved that heavy firepower had finally arrived. This tank became the direct father of every post-war American design. Early Cold War and Korea. T-29 Heavy Tank Series. The T-29 was America's first serious answer to the German heavy tanks. 70 tons with a powerful 105mm gun. The strongest tank the US had at the time. It served as the foundation for an entire family of super heavy prototypes. Although it arrived too late for World War II, its technology influenced everything that came after. T-32 Heavy Tank. The T-32 was basically a supercharged Pershing. thicker armor, a better 90mm gun, and many shared parts with the M26 so it could be rushed into production if needed. It was America's backup plan if the Pershing wasn't enough. T-30 heavy tank. The T-30 took things to the extreme, 75 tons and a jaw-dropping 155mm howitzer. This was the largest gun ever mounted on an American tank. It was built to demolish any or heavy tank in existence. Prototypes were finished in 1947, but by then the Army had decided mobility was more important than raw size. T-34 heavy tank. The T-34 was the final evolution of this heavy family, a huge 120mm gun taken from anti-aircraft cannons and mounted on a massive turret. It was nicknamed the Super Pershing for the Cold War era. Enormous, intimidating, and never put into series production, but its gun and armor ideas lived on in later designs. M46 Patton. Post-war, the Patton era began. The M46 Patton was the first tank named after General George Patton, an improved Pershing with a much better engine. It served as the main battle tank during the Korean War. T-42 medium tank. The T-42 was a short-lived prototype whose turret was so good that the Army literally stole it for the M47 Patton. The hull wasn't great, but that turret became legendary. M41 Walker Bulldog. The M41 Walker Bulldog followed, a fast, agile 25-ton light tank with a 76mm gun. Crews loved it because it was easy to drive and incredibly quick. M47 Patton. Then came the M47 Patton, a true Frankenstein design. They took an older hull and slapped on a brand new turret. It was rushed into production during the height of the Cold War because America needed tanks fast. Despite its flaws, over 8,500 were built, and it served in more than 20 countries. M48 Patton. The M48 Patton became the true icon of the Vietnam era. Rounded turtle hull and turret for excellent protection. T-95 medium tank. The T-95 was a high-tech playground. Smoothbore 90mm gun, composite armor, and an experimental autoloader. Although the project was cancelled, almost every major innovation went directly into the M1 Abrams years later. M1A2 heavy tank. The M1A2 heavy tank was America's last true heavy, 57 tons with a massive 120mm gun designed to snipe Soviet tanks from long range. It required a 5-man crew and was so big that it could barely cross some European bridges. Only a few hundred were built, marking the official end of the heavy tank era in the U.S. Army. Late Cold War and Vietnam. M60 Patton. America's first real main battle tank. 52 tons, 105mm gun and decades of upgrades. It was the Cold War workhorse that served from Europe to Vietnam, and even saw action in the 1991 Gulf War after multiple modernizations. T-92 light tank. The T-92 was an ultra-low-profile light tank designed to be airdropped. It looked almost sci-fi with its tiny silhouette and powerful gun. The Army loved the idea, but it was eventually dropped in favor of the more practical M551 Sheridan. M551 Sheridan. The wild M551 Sheridan was 15 tons of aluminum hull that could be dropped from planes and fire both shells and guided missiles. Crews loved the speed, until they realized it was basically a soda can with a gun. Futuristic experiments came next. The MBT-70 and XM-803, a joint US-German sci-fi project. It was too complex and too expensive. M60A2 Starship. The M60A2 Starship took the concept further, nicknamed Starship for its futuristic look and a 152mm gun that could fire both shells and missiles. It looked incredible, but the complex system proved unreliable. Modern and future concepts. M1 Abrams. And then the revolution arrived in 1980. The M1 Abrams. Gas turbine engine that sounded like a jet, composite armor, and 72 km/h speed. It completely redefined what a tank could do. In the Gulf War it achieved total battlefield dominance. M1A1 Abrams. The M1A1 Abrams brought the famous 120mm smoothbore gun and even better protection. It became the Gulf War icon. M1A2 Abrams. The M1A2 Abrams took it into the digital age, advanced sensors, thermal sights, and full battlefield networking. M8 Armored Gun System. The cancelled M8 Armored Gun System showed the dream of a light, airdroppable 105mm tank with modular armor. It was specifically designed for the 82nd Airborne Division, so they could finally have real firepower after jumping out of planes. M10 Booker. Today we have the M10 Booker, the newest addition to the arsenal. 40 tons, 105mm gun, designed specifically to give infantry heavy fire support. It is the first new American armored vehicle in decades built purely for mobile protected firepower. Abrams X. And the future is already rolling. The Abrams X demonstrator brings a hybrid electric engine, unmanned turret and 10 tons less weight. It's so quiet on electric mode that it can literally sneak up on enemies like a ghost on the battlefield. From tractors to hybrid unmanned monsters, American tanks succeeded not because they were always the strongest on paper, but because they were reliable, produced in huge numbers when it mattered, and constantly improved. The lesson history teaches us is simple: evolution never stops. Which American tank surprised you the most and why? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the evolution of US armor, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video in the series. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.